The Tibetan Book of the Dead, Bardo Thodol, is one of the most important sacred texts in Tibetan Buddhism, offering profound teachings about death and the afterlife. Its title, Bardo Thodol, is derived from Tibetan words, where Bardo means transition or intermediate state, and Thodol means liberation or explanation. Therefore, the text is essentially a guide to the liberation of the soul during its journey through the stages of death. This sacred text outlines the journey of the soul through three main phases after death, providing guidance for how to navigate the experiences encountered during the transition between life and the next reincarnation. In Tibetan Buddhism, death is not seen as an end, but rather as a transition, a part of a cyclical process of life and death. The Tibetan Book of the Dead emphasizes that death is not a final end, but an opportunity for spiritual liberation and awakening. The text is used in Tibetan monasteries, especially during the death process, where it is read aloud to guide the deceased soul through the afterlife. It plays a key role in spiritual training and meditation practices as well, emphasizing the idea that death and life are interrelated, and each offers an opportunity for spiritual development. One of the key reasons why the Tibetan Book of the Dead is considered sacred is that it offers not just guidance for the afterlife, but also profound insights into how to live a more conscious, meaningful, and aware life. It is a guide for understanding both life and death, helping individuals see beyond the material world and seek enlightenment. The Tibetan Book of the Dead presents a detailed account of the journey of the soul through the intermediate states, called Bardo, between death and rebirth. It describes three primary stages, each one offering specific guidance on how to navigate them. These stages are Chikai Bardo, Chonyid Bardo, and Sidpa Bardo. This first stage refers to the moment of death itself. In Chikai Bardo, the soul separates from the body, and the individual becomes aware of the reality of death. This is a crucial moment in which the person has the potential to achieve spiritual liberation if they can recognize the true nature of reality. The moment of death is viewed as an opportunity for enlightenment, as the individual may experience a glimpse of pure awareness, represented by a brilliant light. In Chonyid Bardo, the soul experiences visions and appearances of various deities, spirits, and symbolic images, often drawn from the individual's past life and karma. The soul encounters both peaceful and wrathful deities, representing different aspects of consciousness and karma. This phase is an opportunity for the soul to transcend illusions and achieve liberation if they are able to recognize the true nature of these visions. The ability to face these illusions and not be swayed by them is key to escaping the cycle of rebirth. The final phase, Sidpa Bardo, is the stage in which the soul prepares for its next rebirth. In this phase, the soul looks for a new body and enters the process of reincarnation. The experiences in this phase are heavily influenced by the individual's karma, which determines the circumstances of the new birth. However, this stage is not fixed. If the soul gains awareness of the cyclical nature of existence, it can break free from the cycle of rebirth and attain enlightenment instead. These three bardos outline the key stages in the journey of the soul, and the Tibetan Book of the Dead provides profound teachings on how to navigate each one. These teachings are not only about death, but about life as well, offering a roadmap for spiritual liberation and enlightenment through conscious awareness. The term Bardo refers to an intermediate state, or transition, in Tibetan Buddhism. It describes the state the soul enters after death and before its next rebirth. The Bardo is considered a passage, a temporary phase between one life and the next. It is during this time that the soul undergoes various experiences that are influenced by the karma of past lives. The primary feature of Bardo is that it represents a transition. It is not a final state, but rather a bridge between death and rebirth, where the soul has the opportunity to achieve liberation. In Bardo, the soul experiences various phenomena, including visions, encounters with deities, and experiences that reflect past actions and karmic imprints. If the soul recognizes these experiences as illusions and not the ultimate reality, it has the chance to transcend the cycle of samsara, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, and attain enlightenment. The importance of Bardo lies in the fact that it offers an opportunity for spiritual awakening. It is not just about preparing for death, but understanding the nature of existence itself. If one can recognize the transitory nature of life and death, they can experience a profound realization that transcends the cycle of reincarnation and leads to spiritual freedom. In summary, Bardo is the transitional state between life and death, where the soul undergoes a transformative journey. Understanding this intermediate state, as outlined in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, offers a guide for both dying and living with awareness and intention. It helps individuals see death not as an end, but as a passage towards spiritual awakening and freedom. Chikai Bardo, the first stage in the journey of the soul after death, is often referred to as the moment of death. This is a crucial phase in the Tibetan Buddhist understanding of death, as it marks the soul's transition from life to the afterlife. During this stage, the individual experiences the initial awareness of the death process itself. It is the moment when the soul separates from the physical body and enters the intermediate state, which is the Bardo. In Tibetan Buddhism, the concept of death is seen as a process rather than an abrupt end. The Chikai Bardo is the very first moment in this process when the soul is no longer attached to the physical form. The death of the body is seen not as a permanent end, but as the soul's entry into a new realm of existence. At this moment, the individual experiences a profound shift in consciousness, as the mind begins to detach itself from the physical senses and perceives reality on a deeper level. This initial awareness is often described as an intense, sudden realization that can bring about a sense of calm or even fear, depending on the individual's spiritual readiness. However, for those who have practiced spiritual teachings throughout their lives, this moment can be transformative, as they experience it as a moment of clarity, understanding, and freedom from physical limitations. The Chikai Bardo is also characterized by the separation of the soul from the physical body. This process is described in Tibetan Buddhism as the soul's extraction from the body. During this stage, the individual may experience a sense of floating above the body, or a perception that they are watching their own body from a distance. This sense of detachment is the first sign that the soul is no longer bound by the physical form. One of the most significant experiences in Chikai Bardo is the encounter with a brilliant, pure white light. This light is often referred to as the clear light in Tibetan Buddhism. The clear light represents the purest, most fundamental reality, the unmanifested consciousness that is the essence of existence itself. It is described as an intense, all-encompassing light, often felt as overwhelming and all-consuming. For those who are able to recognize and merge with this light, the experience can be one of profound liberation. This recognition of the clear light is considered the most direct path to enlightenment, as it reveals the true nature of reality, which is beyond the illusion of duality, time, and space. It is a direct encounter with the primordial truth of the universe. As the soul moves through Chikai Bardo, the individual may experience a deep self-realization. This realization is an awareness of one's true nature, beyond the identification with the physical body and individual ego. The soul may come to understand that it is not limited by the body or the material world, but is a part of the eternal, all-pervading consciousness. In this moment of clarity, there is a potential for profound spiritual awakening. If the person is able to maintain awareness during this moment, they may experience a sudden spiritual breakthrough, a remembrance of their true enlightened nature. This recognition can lead to a state of liberation from the cycle of birth and death, known as nirvana. However, for many individuals, the realization of the clear light may be brief or obscured by fear, confusion, or attachments to worldly experiences. If the person is unable to recognize this light as the true nature of reality, they may be drawn into the subsequent stages of the Bardo, where they encounter various visions and experiences shaped by their karma and past actions. The Chikai Bardo holds profound importance in Tibetan Buddhist teachings because it is the moment when the soul has the greatest opportunity for enlightenment or spiritual remembrance. It is the phase when the soul is closest to the pure, unfiltered essence of reality, free from the distractions and illusions of the physical world. This makes it a prime opportunity for achieving nirvana or spiritual liberation. If the individual is able to recognize the clear light during this moment, they are no longer bound by the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, samsara. This recognition is a form of spiritual awakening, where the soul remembers its true, enlightened nature and transcends the limited ego-based self. By merging with the clear light, the individual can directly achieve liberation and realize their ultimate potential. The significance of Chikai Bardo lies in the idea that this is the moment of the most profound spiritual opportunity. For those who have prepared spiritually through meditation, mindfulness, and other practices, the Chikai Bardo can be a time of deep realization, where they are able to dissolve the ego and merge with the ultimate truth of the universe. This is why the teachings around Chikai Bardo emphasize the importance of spiritual preparation throughout life. By cultivating awareness and inner peace, a person increases the likelihood that they will recognize the clear light, and in doing so, achieve liberation at the moment of death. For those who fail to recognize this opportunity, the soul continues through the Bardo process, encountering visions and experiences in subsequent stages that may keep it attached to the cycle of reincarnation. However, even if the soul does not achieve enlightenment in Chikai Bardo, the teachings still offer a path forward through the subsequent Bardos, guiding the soul towards spiritual liberation at another point in the process. In summary, Chikai Bardo represents the initial, most potent moment of the soul's journey after death. It is the moment when the individual has the potential for complete spiritual liberation and enlightenment if they can recognize the true nature of reality. The encounter with the clear light offers an unparalleled opportunity for spiritual remembrance, and if the soul embraces it, it can attain nirvana directly, breaking free from the cycle of samsara. Thus, Chikai Bardo is a critical stage in the Bardo process, holding the potential for the highest form of spiritual realization. Chonyid Bardo is the second phase in the post-death experience, where the soul encounters a multitude of images, symbols, and visions that stem from its past life actions and the process of dying itself. In this stage, the deceased's consciousness enters a phase filled with vivid, often surreal visual phenomena that can be both enlightening and confusing. This stage is deeply connected to the soul's karma, the consequences of past actions, and serves as a sort of mirror for the individual's inner state. The visions that appear during this period are not just random. They are intricately tied to the individual's life experiences, emotional patterns, and the karmic imprints left behind. These visual experiences can range from calm and serene images to more chaotic and disturbing ones, all reflecting the unresolved emotional and spiritual residue carried from the past. Chonyid Bardo is, in a sense, a transitionary space between the physical and the spiritual, where the soul is confronted with these symbolic representations of its past. The vivid imagery that manifests during this phase reflects the illusionary nature of reality, with the boundaries between what is real and what is not becoming blurred. The key to navigating this stage is to recognize these visions for what they are: transitory and illusory manifestations, not the ultimate truth. During Chonyid Bardo, the deceased confronts the results of their past actions, or karma, through the appearance of symbols and visual experiences. These images can be very intense and may represent the good and bad deeds performed throughout the person's life. For example, positive karma might manifest as bright, light-filled visions, often signifying a peaceful or blissful afterlife. In contrast, negative karma can manifest as dark, frightening, and disorienting images, often reflecting the unresolved suffering and emotional turmoil the individual might have carried during their life. The colors and symbols that appear during this stage are often not random, but are deeply reflective of the deceased's emotional state, their past actions, and the karmic seeds they have sown. In Tibetan Buddhism, colors and symbols play a significant role in conveying spiritual messages. For instance, white is often associated with purity, enlightenment, and the clear light, while dark, ominous colors might symbolize unresolved fears, anger, or emotional confusion. These symbols can serve as reminders of the individual's karmic imprints, forcing them to confront the consequences of their past actions. The deceased must face these images as part of their spiritual purification process. If a person has lived a life of kindness, compassion, and mindfulness, they are likely to encounter more peaceful and uplifting visions during Chonyid Bardo. Conversely, if they have been consumed by negative emotions or harmful actions, they may encounter disturbing and unsettling images that reflect the karmic consequences of those actions. This period is, therefore, not only a phase of spiritual reckoning, but also a critical opportunity for self-realization and purification. One of the most important factors influencing the experiences during Chonyid Bardo is the spiritual attitude of the individual. The way the soul responds to the visions, symbols, and imagery encountered during this stage can have a profound impact on its next life and potential reincarnation. If a person enters Chonyid Bardo with peaceful, calm awareness, acknowledging the visions as transitory and not being swept away by fear, attachment, or confusion, they may have a more positive and peaceful rebirth. For example, if the soul can recognize the illusory nature of these images and not be overwhelmed by them, it may move towards spiritual liberation or a higher state of consciousness. This self-awareness can help the soul navigate the transition more effectively, allowing it to achieve a more favorable rebirth or even progress toward enlightenment. On the other hand, if the deceased experiences fear, confusion, or attachment to the images and visions they encounter, they may become trapped in the cycle of samsara, the endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. The emotional and mental responses to the images play a crucial role in shaping the soul's experience in the bardo and the subsequent path toward rebirth. A fear of the visions, a desire to escape them, or a failure to recognize their impermanence can all lead to more unfavorable rebirth conditions, such as being born into difficult circumstances or lower realms of existence. The deceased's attitude also determines how they handle the manifestations of negative karma. If they respond with remorse, acceptance, and clarity, they can purify these karmic imprints and experience a smoother transition to a better rebirth. However, if they are overwhelmed by anger, guilt, or denial, the karmic residue may continue to bind them to suffering in their next life. Therefore, cultivating a mindful, aware, and peaceful state of mind in this phase is essential for influencing a more favorable reincarnation. In essence, Chonyid Bardo is not just a phase of visual experiences, but also an opportunity for spiritual growth and self-realization. The soul's mental and emotional responses to the imagery encountered during this phase determine the nature of the rebirth experience. By responding with wisdom, equanimity, and clarity, the soul can move beyond the karmic limitations of past actions and enter a new life with more favorable conditions. Sidpa Bardo is the final phase in the Tibetan Buddhist understanding of the Bardo states, marking the transition from the intermediate state of death to the next life. In this phase, the soul is in a state of choosing its next rebirth, navigating through the conditions and circumstances that will define its next existence. This stage is a crucial one, as it reflects the process of reincarnation in Tibetan Buddhism. After passing through the initial stages of death and vision, Chikai and Chonyid Bardos, the soul enters the Sidpa Bardo, where it begins to make decisions about its future form. During this time, the soul is deeply connected to its past karma and the karmic forces that shape its next incarnation. It is believed that during Sidpa Bardo, the soul has the ability to choose the conditions for its next life, influenced by its accumulated karma, emotional tendencies, and spiritual development. This period is often described as one of great potential and vulnerability, where the choices made can profoundly affect the direction of the soul's journey. While the soul may be able to perceive various potential lives or bodies, its choices are not random. They are heavily influenced by the karmic residue from past actions. The soul may be drawn toward a life that reflects unresolved emotional tendencies or unresolved desires from previous lives, leading it to a life that continues to perpetuate the cycle of samsara, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. Alternatively, If the soul has developed higher levels of awareness and compassion, it may choose a form that allows it to further its spiritual path and break free from the cycle of samsara. The Siddha Bardo is not a passive experience. The soul is actively engaged in selecting the circumstances for its next life, which is why it is of great spiritual significance. The choices made in this phase can directly influence the quality of life in the next incarnation, including physical, emotional, and spiritual conditions. In the Siddha Bardo, the soul embarks on a journey of searching for an appropriate body for its next incarnation. This stage is marked by a process of selection, as the soul considers a range of possibilities for where and how it will be reborn. The soul is not merely wandering aimlessly, but is actively seeking a form that matches its karmic blueprint and spiritual needs. The nature of the soul's karmic residue, including its past actions, desires, and spiritual progress, directly influences the options available to it. The choices the soul faces in Siddha Bardo are typically influenced by past karma. For example, if an individual has accumulated positive karma through virtuous actions in past lives, they may be drawn toward a higher realm of existence or be reborn into a body that offers opportunities for spiritual growth. On the other hand, if the soul's actions have been dominated by negative karma, the soul may be drawn to a form that reflects these past actions, potentially leading to a lower realm of existence or a life of suffering. In this phase, the soul is also believed to be highly susceptible to emotional attachments and desires from past lives. The emotional tendencies that the individual carried in life, whether fear, anger, love, or attachment, can draw the soul toward a particular type of life, even if that life is not ideal for its long-term spiritual growth. This is why the soul's awareness and the understanding of impermanence are crucial in this phase. If the soul recognizes the nature of its desires and attachments, it may be able to make a choice that leads to a more peaceful and spiritually enriching life. In practical terms, this means that the soul during Siddha Bardo is presented with various forms of life to choose from. These might include potential families, environments, and life circumstances that reflect the soul's karmic inclinations. The soul may experience visions or encounters with potential parents or future environments, and the decision of where to be reborn is based on its spiritual readiness and karma. The soul is actively shaping its future, which is why Siddha Bardo is such a critical phase in the Tibetan Buddhist cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. Siddha Bardo is a profound reminder of the cyclic nature of existence in Tibetan Buddhism. It highlights the fact that life and death are interconnected, and that death is not the end, but rather a transition into another phase of existence. The cycle of samsara, birth, death, and rebirth, is a never-ending process unless one breaks free through enlightenment. In Siddha Bardo, the soul's ability to choose its next birth underlines the continuity of this cycle. While the soul is presented with options based on its karma, it is often bound to continue its journey within the cycle of samsara. This continuous cycle is characterized by the impermanence of all things, with life constantly in flux and subject to death and rebirth. The choices made in Siddha Bardo do not offer an escape from this cycle unless the soul has gained a deep understanding of impermanence and wisdom. This is why the teachings of Tibetan Buddhism emphasize the importance of spiritual practice and awareness throughout life. One must prepare for death and the subsequent bardos by cultivating compassion, mindfulness, and wisdom, which can help one make better choices during Siddha Bardo. In a sense, Siddha Bardo shows how karma and desires keep the soul entangled in samsara, with the ultimate goal of breaking free from this cycle through awakening. Siddha Bardo not only marks the soul's selection of a new body, but also points to the impermanence of all forms of existence. It underscores that no matter how many lives one experiences, the fundamental nature of samsara remains unchanged unless one attains liberation or nirvana. Thus, Siddha Bardo serves as a powerful reminder that, in the cycle of life and death, the soul is continuously influenced by past actions, yet it also holds the potential for change and spiritual progress. In conclusion, Siddha Bardo emphasizes that death is not an end, but a transition in an endless cycle of existence, and the choices made during this phase determine the conditions for the soul's next life. Understanding this phase highlights the importance of spiritual practice and awareness in overcoming the cycle of samsara and eventually reaching enlightenment. Bardo Thodol, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, is not only a guide about life after death, but it also offers profound teachings on how to live more consciously and with awareness in this life. The text explains the bardos, intermediate states, the soul passes through after death. But the teachings go far beyond the afterlife. They offer a framework for living a mindful and purposeful life here and now. According to Tibetan Buddhism, death is not an end but a transition phase. However, the lessons from the Bardo Thodol are applicable not only to death, but also to every moment of our lives. The Tibetan Book of the Dead brings awareness to the meaning of life, encouraging individuals to live with deeper awareness and connection. Understanding the Bardo states gives us tools for living more intentionally. It teaches us to approach every moment with mindfulness, seeing life as a continuous process of learning and growth. By reflecting on the transition of death, we become aware of how we can live fully in each moment, appreciating the present and acting with more clarity and intention. Bardo Thodol offers a profound call to live consciously by realizing that every moment, every breath, is part of an eternal continuum. This understanding enhances our awareness of the transient nature of life and challenges us to live with intention. It is a reminder that we should not wait until death to be mindful. Every moment is an opportunity to be fully awake and aware. According to the teachings of the Tibetan Book of the Dead, death is not simply a physical cessation, but a continuous awakening and a state of heightened awareness. Death, in the Tibetan Buddhist view, is a transition, a moment when consciousness is fully awake, observing the experience of the afterlife. This awakening is not exclusive to death itself, but is a state of awareness that we can practice in our everyday lives. The concept of death as an awakening teaches us that every moment of life can be lived as a state of consciousness and alertness. Just as the soul experiences awakening after death, so can we cultivate this awareness while alive. The teachings of Bardo Thodol remind us that the spiritual journey is not just something that happens after death, but something that is deeply relevant to how we approach life. We are encouraged to develop a mindset where we see life as a process of continuous awakening. The awareness gained in the afterlife, particularly during the Bardo states, can inform our waking life. When we approach life with openness and alertness, we begin to experience it as an ongoing unfolding, not as a series of disconnected moments. The concept of death as constant awareness can serve as a guide for living more fully in the present. It challenges us to live as if we are always in a state of awakening, recognizing that each moment is precious and that there is always more to learn. Bardo Thodol's teachings go beyond understanding death and delve into spiritual awareness, self-discovery, and the practice of meditation. The Bardo states, the transitional states of the soul, serve as a map for understanding our inner journey and how we can cultivate awareness in our everyday lives. The Bardo states themselves are not just about death. They are metaphors for the inner journey we take throughout life. They show us that every moment is an opportunity for self-awareness and spiritual growth. Meditation plays a crucial role in this process, as it is a practice that fosters deep connection to one's inner self, enabling a person to see beyond surface-level experiences. By developing a meditative mind, individuals can begin to align their lives with deeper truths and spiritual insight. The process of self-discovery is central to the teachings of Bardo Thodol. The text encourages individuals to use the awareness gained through contemplation of the Bardos to cultivate a deeper understanding of the self. This journey is not merely about gaining knowledge, but about transcending the ego and the attachments that cloud our spiritual progress. Meditation and inner exploration help the individual uncover hidden layers of their consciousness, revealing higher aspects of the self that might otherwise remain hidden. Ultimately, the teachings of Bardo Thodol guide us to see that life and death are part of a continuous inner journey. Through spiritual awareness and meditation, we can prepare for death and understand its teachings, while simultaneously using these insights to live more consciously in the present. Bardo Thodol, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, offers teachings about death and the afterlife that carry universal meaning and provide a profound connection not only for Tibetans, but for all of humanity. The explanations of the Bardo's intermediate states in Bardo Thodol show that death is not just an individual experience, but a universal truth that we all share. These teachings allow individuals from all walks of life to form a deep connection with the experiences of death and rebirth. Bardo Thodol presents a view of life and death that is universally applicable. This understanding influences how we accept the reality of death and the value of our own lives. The teachings of Bardo Thodol foster a universal awareness of life and death. Death is not seen as an isolated experience, but rather a shared transition that connects us all. These teachings guide people to seek freedom, depth, and meaning. They invite individuals to find peace with the reality of death, and in doing so, understand that death is not an ending, but a new beginning, an ongoing journey. These teachings help individuals understand that we all share the same human experience of death, making it a moment of connection rather than separation. According to the teachings of Bardo Thodol, death is not simply an end, but a transition, a process that leads to new beginnings. This perspective emphasizes that death is not a conclusion, but a continuation of the cycle of life. In Tibetan Buddhism, death is understood as a transformation, a shift into another form, not the cessation of existence. The teachings explain that each death is a new start in the cycle of existence, guiding the soul toward rebirth. Bardo Thodol also emphasizes that each life holds deep meaning. Death provides a profound reflection on the value of life, encouraging us to see each moment as significant. The recognition of death as a transition helps us understand that every life, every experience, and every action is part of a larger, meaningful process. The reality of death invites us to live with a greater sense of purpose and to understand that life is not random or without meaning, but is instead part of a vast, interconnected web of existence. Living with the awareness of death brings a new appreciation for life. Understanding that death is a continuing journey, not a final destination, helps us view our existence as meaningful and intertwined with the eternal flow of life. It calls for a deeper engagement with life and prompts us to live in such a way that we align ourselves with the greater cycles of existence. The ancient teachings of Bardo Thodol are invaluable, not just for understanding death, but for increasing humanity's awareness of both life and death. These teachings encourage individuals to embrace not only the mystery of death, but also the spiritual journey of life itself. The teachings of Bardo Thodol urge us to engage more consciously with both death and life, recognizing that both are integral parts of a larger cyclical process. The importance of these teachings lies in their ability to deepen our awareness and help us live more consciously. As we understand death better, we become more mindful of the preciousness of life. The Bardo Thodol guides us toward understanding that every moment is an opportunity for growth and awareness. By embracing the teachings of Bardo Thodol, we can cultivate a more meaningful relationship with life, making each day an opportunity for spiritual practice and insight. Ultimately, these teachings encourage humanity to move beyond the fear of death and embrace it as a natural part of the life cycle. By understanding and accepting the unavoidable reality of death, we can transform how we approach life. Each individual, through these teachings, can increase their awareness of their own life and death, living in a way that is more present, purposeful, and aware. These teachings have the potential to shift how humanity sees both life and death, creating a deeper connection between all people and the eternal cycles of existence.